Hey there, this is Jason. It's September 30th, 2023, and today I'm going to taste test the 3 different Jujube varieties that I have growing in my backyard orchard. Let's go check them out. All right, here I'm in front of my 3 Jujube trees. Right here in the foreground on the left, I have Lang. Over here on the right, I have GA866. And then in the back, I have Li, L-I. So all 3 of these trees were planted at the exact same time 2 years ago. And they've all grown to be about the same height. I've kept them pruned. They're approximately 7 feet tall at this point. And the fruit ripens up in the fall in September. Late September, early October, but Lang definitely ripened up first. In fact, I've picked most of Lang off of the tree, and there are a few brown ones left. Now Lang, the fruit there is almost completely brown. Maybe the bottoms on some of the fruit are still green where they're sheltered from the sun, but for the most part those have turned 100% brown, which means they're going to be a little bit sweeter when you compare them to a half brown, half green GA866. So while I'm trying to compare these as closely as possible, just the fact that they ripen up at different times means that the flavor profile is not really going to match 100%. But all right, so when picking fruit on Jujube trees, you're always going to look for the ones that face the sun. So up here at the top, I have a nice golf ball sized Jujube. And whoop, there we go, dropped it already. Chickens are going to get it. It's actually been so sun exposed that the bottom is starting to wrinkle. So maybe I'll get a second one for comparison. For the most part, these leaves, they are still green. There's a couple that are brown. There's a few. I'm not quite sure what happens here. These brown up way earlier. You can eat them, but they don't fully mature. You get a lot of these when the tree first flowers. Here's another example of one right over here. You'll occasionally get this right here where the fruit will brown up, but it's not mature, it shrivels up, and it doesn't grow at the same rate as the rest of the fruit, and eventually they fall off. So I want to avoid those, but I am looking for other fruit that is about golf ball size, that is brown or at least partially brown. So here, when you take a bite into this, you'll get one flavor on one side, you'll get another flavor on the other, and sometimes that works out in our favor, you know, it balances out the sweetness, but I've got a couple of all the above. So let me go ahead over here to the GA866. Let me pick a couple of these. These are not as brown as the Lang, but there's a couple here. These have more of like a mottled or mottled brown. Mottled, M-O-T-T-L-E-D, I think. Is that the right word? In any case, it looks more speckled when it browns as opposed to the other 2. So I'll grab a couple of these off the tree. Mottled, I think, is the word I was trying to look for. And then Lang over here, these are almost completely brown. Again, some of the areas that are sheltered from the sun, those are not brown yet, but that's okay. The majority of the fruit here is going to be brown, so it's going to be on the sweeter side. All right, so I have a couple to compare. I'll put these next to each other so you can see on the camera how the size compares and the shape compares, but we're ready to taste test. All right, so let's compare the different sizes here. GA866 on the left-hand side, Lang in the middle, and Li on the right. Now Li will grow to be golf ball to ping pong ball size, maybe a little bit larger. So like I said in my last video, if you're looking for the biggest bang for your buck, if you're looking for the largest fruit size, Li is going to win every single time. Lang has more of this, what I said, gourd or pear shape. Large when compared to some of the other Jujubes, but again, maybe half the size as your Li. And then the GA866, this one is more oval shaped and not as large, the smallest of the 3. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to try some of these. I'll give you a little reaction as to what they taste like. So as far as the Li is concerned, you get a lot of flesh there. When you bite into that, you can take a good bite out before you get to the seed. So I like that. I like having that full flavor. I love having a large bite of something. I like getting the large apples from the grocery store, and this fits that bill. So immediately you can notice the color difference here, where it's a little bit lighter yellow in the center and it's a little bit darker yellow there on the edges. And the darker sides, the edges, those are juicier and those are sweeter. So if I was to let this sit on the tree a little bit longer, the juiciness would sort of seep its way through and this would get more and more brown. I do run the risk of them, you know, getting too brown and getting wrinkled, kind of like this guy over here, right? And look at the bottom and it's a little wrinkled. So you do run the risk if you let it sit on the tree for too long. But generally speaking, sorry, I'm still chewing this Lee here. Generally speaking, your fruit will get sweeter and juicier as you let them mature on the tree and they get browner and browner. Most of that brownness is due to sun exposure, but some of it is also due to just being on the tree longer. So as far as the reaction here on Lee, large fruit, there's a good balance between sweetness and juiciness. It's not overly sweet, it's not overly juicy. And again, depending on the part that you bite, if you get more of that yellow side, it'll be less sweet. So if you bite right down the middle, you'll get a good mix. And when you sort of stir it all together in your mouth, you get a nice mix. A Lee is super popular. You can find these trees pretty much anywhere in Southern California, especially during bare root season. Not hard to find at all. And if you were to come across a Lee and that was your only choice, you really can't go wrong. So let's go ahead and try one of the Lang. So now, the Lang, I already have an opinion about the Lang, and I'm going to pretend like I'm coming into this with have never tried a Lang before, but I already have an opinion about what these things taste like and my thoughts on them, but I'll reserve that for after the video. So Lang, right away, you can see that the same color variation exists here, where it's a little bit lighter yellow, lighter green in the center, a little bit darker greenish yellow on the perimeter. It is sweeter on the perimeter, but right away you can tell that the Lang is not as juicy. It's a lot drier. And sometimes when you get a mealy apple, I know this is probably a bad comparison, but it's the only thing I could think of. When you get a mealy apple, it has that dryness to it. It also has a texture, right? But the dryness that comes with a mealy apple, that's kind of what this reminds me of. When compared to a Lee, I can't say that there's anything better about this. If I was to put them side by side, I can't say that this is larger. I can't say it's juicier. I can't say it's sweeter. It's really just in all of those categories, it's just lesser than the Lee. So side by side, I already know I'm going with the Lee, and the Lang, while it's good to have as a comparison, I'm just not as impressed with it. I picked up a Lang not knowing that. I grew the trees. I taste tested them for the first time in my backyard, and I was able to form this opinion. If all you had was a Lang, it's not the end of the world. It's not the worst fruit in the world. It's just tough to go back to a Lang once you've had a Lee. All right, so now over here, this is the GA866, much smaller. You're going to have to pick quite a few of these if you want, a substantial snack. And when you bite into it, you're going to have to be a little bit more careful because the pit is going to be in the center, and you're going to have to bite around that more and kind of be more delicate as you're biting. Last year, even though I had these in the ground for 2 years, last year, I only got 1 or 2 GA866. And while I did get to try those that first year, since I had so few of them, I really didn't get to form a strong opinion. So this is really the first year that I got a large enough crop where I can really taste test and compare. So here goes a GA866. All right, so color-wise, this fruit is juicy all the way through. I mean, look at the comparison here. I'm going to try and have they're round, so they're going to roll on me. But I want you to look at the comparison between the GA866 in the center, the Lang, and the Lee. The GA866 is juicy all the way through. And again, you can pick up on that color difference. If you look, you see that darker yellow-green on the perimeter. It runs almost all the way to the seed. There's only one little spot on the GA866 that's dry or less sweet, and that's down here at the bottom. The majority of this fruit is juicy. It's extremely sweet. This right here, this thing is the closest you can get to candy. I mean, this is so sweet. If you like sweetness, GA866 is the way to go, without a doubt. But notice the size, right? It's smaller. My first year, it did not fruit as profusely. I did not get as many as the Lee. I got way more Lee. I got way more Lang than I got GA866. Even year number 2, production is lagging behind just a little bit. So if you're looking for a lot of fruit and a good balance between size and sweetness, then the Lee is where you go. If you're just looking for maybe the sweetest, the one that tastes like candy, the one that you can come down to and pick 1 or 2 off each time you pass by and just be so impressed with the flavor and sweetness, then GA866 is the way to go. Unfortunately, Lang I'm really having a hard time saying anything positive about Lang. They're edible, don't get me wrong, and I'll eat the ones and I'll give away the ones that I grow. But I am seriously considering chopping my Lang down and grafting on a different variety. I've heard good things about, I think, honey jar and sugarcane, or maybe some of the lesser known varieties that maybe I might be able to get my hands on during this winter. So Lang, I hate to say this, this might be the very first tree in my entire orchard that I cut down and start again on. I'm in a position right now where I may remove the Lang entirely. So that's my review of these Jujubes. Do you agree? Do you have these trees? Have you tried these varieties? Let me know in the comments section. I'd love to hear your feedback. And again, if you're going out there and you're looking for a Jujube tree, if you're looking for overall sweetness, you can't go wrong. GA866 is where it's at. If you're looking for a good balance of size and sweetness and quantity, Lee. But really, you can't go wrong with either one. In my opinion, I'd stay away from the Lang.